My daughter-in-law filmed me setting the table. Our live-in maid, good for something. I was folding a basket of towels when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. It was a text from my daughter Jenny. Just a link. No words before it, no explanation. Just a link to a TikTok video. I don't really understand TikTok. My grandson Liam tried to explain it to me once. He said it's like television, but for people who hate television. I just nodded and made him a grilled cheese. I tapped the link. The video opened with a shot of my own dining room, the one I raised 3 children in, the one where I hosted 40 Thanksgiving dinners, the one where my husband Frank used to fall asleep in his recliner after the turkey. The camera was shaky at first. Someone was holding a phone up high, like they didn't want to be seen. Then the camera steadied, and there I was. I was setting the table. I recognized my hands first, the veins, the slight tremor in my right hand from the arthritis. I was wearing that blue cardigan Jenny gave me 3 Christmases ago, the one with the missing button I keep meaning to sew back on. I was placing plates down, one by one. The good china, the wedding china, the plates Frank and I got in 1987 from his Aunt Margaret, who said never put them in the dishwasher or God would strike you down. I didn't know anyone was filming me. The video had a voiceover, a woman's voice, young, bright, laughing, my daughter-in-law, Ashley, married to my oldest son Mark, mother of my grandson Liam and my granddaughter Chloe. The voiceover said these exact words. I have played them back 200 times. I have played them back in therapy. I have played them back in my car at 3 in the morning, parked outside the 7-Eleven on Grand Avenue because I couldn't breathe. Our live-in maid, good for something. The camera zoomed in on my hands, the tremor, the way I had to use both hands to lift the stack of plates, the way I leaned on the table for balance because my hip has been bad since the fall last February. The voiceover laughed again. A text overlay appeared on the screen. Bright pink letters. Free labor is the best labor. I watched the video 7 times in a row. Then I put the phone down. I walked to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror above the sink. I was 68 years old. My hair was gray and thin. I had dark circles under my eyes because I had been watching Liam and Chloe every single night for the past 18 months, while Ashley and Mark went to the gym or dinners, or whatever they said they needed time for. I had lost 15 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. My wedding ring was loose on my finger. Frank said I should get it resized, but I kept thinking maybe I would gain the weight back. I didn't gain the weight back. I stood in the bathroom for a long time. Then I went back to the kitchen and finished folding the towels. I stacked them neatly on the counter. I put them away in the linen closet. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where I taught Jenny how to write her name, the same table where Mark told me he wanted to marry Ashley. I sat there for 3 hours. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there. The first crock in everything came about 4 years ago. That was when Frank got sick, prostate cancer. The treatable kind, they said. The kind where you do the radiation and take the pills and everything goes back to normal. Except normal never came back. Frank got tired. Not old man tired, a different kind of tired. The kind where he would fall asleep mid-sentence. The kind where he stopped wanting to go fishing with his brother Bob. The kind where he looked at me sometimes like he was already gone and his body just hadn't caught up yet. I took care of him. Of course I took care of him. That's what you do. You stand in the pharmacy line for 45 minutes. You learn the names of medications that sound like robots. You hold his hand during the radiation treatments, and you tell him everything is going to be fine, even though the nurses have a certain look, a look you learn to recognize, the look that says, we know something you don't know. I didn't tell the kids how bad it was. I didn't want to worry them. Mark was busy with his real estate business. Jenny was going through her divorce. I kept it all inside. I drove Frank to every appointment. I cooked every meal. I cleaned the house. I did the laundry. I paid the bills. I did it all. And when Frank died 18 months ago, I stood at his funeral in that black dress from JCPenney, and I watched my 3 children stand in a row, and I thought, at least it's over. At least the hard part is over. I was wrong. The hard part started 3 days after the funeral. Ashley came to the house with a casserole. She was always good at the performance of caring. The casserole was still warm. She hugged me and said all the right things. She said Frank was a good man. She said he raised a good son. She said I shouldn't be alone in this big house. She looked around the living room with an expression I didn't understand at the time. I thought she was admiring the crown molding. I thought she was thinking about all the memories. She was measuring. She was calculating the square footage, the property value, the equity, the inheritance, all of it. She was standing in my living room 3 days after my husband's funeral, running numbers in her head like a real estate agent, which she was. That's how she met Mark. She was his agent when he bought his first rental property. She sold him the house we're standing in right now, she said at the wedding. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. She said I should come stay with them for a while, just until I felt better, just until the house didn't feel so empty. She said Liam and Chloe would love having Grandma around. She said it would be good for everyone. Mark stood behind her, nodding. He had that look he used to get when he was a teenager and he wanted something from me. That half smile, that shrug, that casual way of saying, "It would really help us out, Mom." I said yes because I was tired. I said yes because the house was full of Frank's ghost. I could feel him in every room. In the garage where his tools still hung on the pegboard. In the basement where his fishing rods leaned against the wall. In the bedroom where his side of the closet was still full of flannel shirts that smelled like him. I said yes because I didn't want to be alone with all that grief. I moved in with Mark and Ashley on a Tuesday. Liam was 9, Chloe was 7. They were excited to have me. Liam showed me his room. Chloe showed me her dolls. Ashley showed me the guest room. It was small but clean. A twin bed, a dresser, a window that faced the backyard. She said, "Make yourself at home." I unpacked my suitcase. 2 weeks' worth of clothes, my Bible, a framed photo of Frank from our 30th anniversary dinner. His face was can and happy. He had both arms around me. We looked like people who had figured it out. The first week was fine. I helped with dinner. I read bedtime stories. I walked Liam to the bus stop. Ashley was grateful. She said thank you every time I loaded the dishwasher. She said, "You're such a lifesaver." She said, "I don't know what we would do without you." I felt useful. I felt needed. I felt like maybe this was God's way of giving me a new purpose after Frank. The second week, Ashley asked if I could watch the kids on Saturday night. She and Mark had a work dinner. She said it would just be a few hours. I said, of course. That was the first time I noticed the shift. Not in her, in me. I stopped saying, "Let me check my schedule." I stopped saying I had plans. I didn't have plans. My plans were gone when Frank died. My plans were buried next to him in that cemetery on the hill. So I said yes. I always said yes. By the third week, I was making breakfast every morning. By the fourth week, I was doing the grocery shopping. By the second month, I was the one who remembered Liam had a dentist appointment. I was the one who knew Chloe was allergic to strawberries. I was the one who packed the lunches and folded the laundry and scrubbed the toilets and vacuumed the stairs and changed the bed sheets and watered the plants and took out the trash and cleaned the litter box even though I told Mark I didn't want a cat in the first place. I was the one. Ashley stopped saying thank you. She stopped looking at me when she spoke. She would call out instructions from the living room while I was in the kitchen. The laundry needs to be sorted by color, not just thrown in. Chloe doesn't like the crust cut off anymore. She likes the crust left on. Can you pick up my dry cleaning on your way back from the pharmacy? The pharmacy where I picked up her birth control, her antidepressant, her thyroid medication. All of it on my dime, because she said she forgot her wallet and she would pay me back. She never paid me back. Mark noticed none of this. Or he noticed and he didn't care. I don't know which one is worse. He would come home from work and go straight to the basement to watch sports. He would kiss Ashley on the cheek and ruffle Liam's hair and pat Chloe's head, and then he would disappear. He didn't see me loading the dishwasher at 9 o'clock at night. He didn't see me scrubbing the pasta sauce off the stove. He didn't see me standing in the dark kitchen with dish soap up to my elbows and no one asking if I had eaten dinner. I hadn't eaten dinner. I started losing weight in the third month, not on purpose. I just forgot to eat. There was always something to do. A spill to clean, a child to bathe, a grocery list to make, a load of laundry to switch over. By the time everyone was fed and the kitchen was closed and the kids were in bed and Ashley was scrolling her phone on the couch and Mark was asleep in the basement recliner, I was too tired to eat. I would drink a glass of water and go to my room. The twin bed, the dresser, the photo of Frank. I would look at his face and I would whisper, "I am so tired." I didn't know he couldn't hear me. I didn't know no one was listening. The TikTok video was posted on a Thursday. I didn't see it until Saturday because I don't use the app. Jenny saw it. Jenny sent it to me. Jenny is my youngest. She is 42. She has the kind of rage I used to have before life wore me down. She called me after she sent the link. I didn't answer. She called 7 more times. Then she texted, "Mom, answer the phone. Mom, please. Mom, I am coming over there. Mom, I am so angry I can't see straight." I finally called her back at midnight. She answered on the first ring. She was crying. "Mom," she said. "Mom, I want to kill her." I said, "Don't say that." She said, "I mean it." I said, "You don't mean it." She said, "Mom, did you watch the whole thing?" I said, "Yes." She said, "There's more." I said, "What do you mean more?" She said, "There are other videos. She has a whole series. She's been filming you for months." I didn't sleep that night. I opened the TikTok app for the first time in my life. I typed in Ashley's username, Ashley Thompson Home. The profile picture was her smiling in sunglasses. She had 12,000 followers. She had 247 videos. I started scrolling. There I was folding laundry. The caption said, "Cinderella does the whites." 4,000 likes. There I was vacuuming the living room. The caption said, "The grandmother we keep in the basement." 11,000 likes. There I was making sandwiches. The caption said, "Dinner service at Shea Thompson." 23,000 likes. There I was reading a book to Chloe on the couch. The caption said, "Free babysitter doesn't complain about bedtime." 18,000 likes. There I was asleep on the guest room bed. The door was slightly open. The camera zoomed in on my face. My mouth was open. I looked old. I looked tired. I looked exactly like what I was, a 68-year-old widow who had been used up by people she loved. The caption said, "Nap time for the help." 31,000 likes. I watched every single video. It took me 4 hours. By the end, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to walk into Ashley and Mark's bedroom and wake them up and ask them how they could let this happen. But I didn't. I sat in the dark on that twin bed, and I held Frank's photo against my chest, and I cried the way you cry when you realize you have been invisible for a very long time. Not just to strangers on the internet, to your own family. I thought about all the times I heard Ashley laughing in the other room while she was on her phone. I thought about all the times I heard her say, "Hold on, let me get this angle." I thought about all the times she asked me to stand in a certain spot, or move to the left, or turn toward the window. I thought she was just being particular about the lighting. I thought she was just being Ashley. I didn't know she was framing me for an audience of 12,000 strangers who thought my exhaustion was entertainment. The next morning, I got up at 6, like always. I made coffee. I started breakfast. Pancakes, Ashley's favorite. I don't know why I made her favorite. Habit, I guess. Or denial. Or the part of my brain that still wanted to believe this was all a mistake, that she didn't mean it, that the videos were just a joke that went too far. I poured the batter onto the griddle. I watched the bubbles form. I flipped the pancakes. I stacked them on a plate. I carried the plate to the table. Ashley came downstairs at 7:15. She was wearing her robe. Her hair was wet from the shower. She sat down at the table and picked up her phone before she picked up her fork. She started scrolling. She smiled at something. Then she looked at me. "Good morning," she said. Her voice was normal, casual, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't spent the last 6 months turning me into a viral joke. I said, "Good morning." I didn't say anything else. I couldn't. The words were stuck in my throat. I stood at the stove and I watched her eat the pancakes I made. I watched her scroll through her phone while she chewed. I watched her laugh at something on the screen. I knew it was probably me. Some video she hadn't posted yet. Some new angle of my suffering that she was saving for later. Mark came upstairs at 8. He kissed Ashley on the top of her head. He poured himself a cup of coffee. He didn't look at me. He sat down at the table and opened his laptop. I asked him if he wanted eggs. He said, "Yeah, sure." I made him eggs. Over easy. Just the way he liked them since he was a boy. I put the plate in front of him. He said, "Thanks, Mom," without looking up from his screen. I stood at the sink and I washed the pancake griddle. The water was hot, almost too hot. I let it run over my hands. I watched my wedding ring slide back and forth on my finger. I thought about Frank. I thought about how he used to stand behind me at this exact sink when we first got married. He would wrap his arms around my waist while I washed dishes. He would rest his chin on my shoulder. He would whisper something stupid, like, "I love you even when you use too much soap." I laughed every time. There is no one behind me now. I dried my hands. I walked to the guest room. I closed the door. I sat on the twin bed. I opened my phone. I looked at the video again, the one where I was setting the table. Our live-in maid. Good for something. 47,000 likes now. The number had grown while I was making pancakes, while I was cooking eggs for a son who couldn't be bothered to ask how I slept, while I was standing in a kitchen that wasn't mine, serving food to people who saw me as furniture with a pulse. I called Jenny. She answered on the first ring. I said, "Come get me." She said, "I'm already in the car." Jenny arrived 40 minutes later. She parked in the driveway and walked to the front door. She didn't knock. She walked inside. She found me in the guest room with my suitcase half-packed. She hugged me so hard I felt my ribs creaked. She said, "I'm so sorry, Mom." She said I should have seen it sooner. She said I should have been here. I told her it wasn't her fault. She said it wasn't mine either. I didn't believe her, but I nodded anyway. Ashley heard the noise. She came to the guest room doorway. She was holding her coffee mug. Her face was pleasant, blank, the face of someone who hasn't been caught yet. Jenny said, "We're leaving." Ashley tilted her head. "Why?" she said, like she genuinely didn't know. Like the videos were just silly little jokes between family members. Like calling me the help was just a playful term of endearment. Jenny said, "The videos, Ashley." Ashley's face didn't change. She blinked once, twice. Then she smiled. "Oh, those," she said. "Those are just for fun. People love them. You're a hit, Mom." She called me Mom. She said it like she had the right, like she had earned it, like she hadn't spent 6 months profiting off my loneliness and my grief and my broken hip and my trembling hands. I zipped my suitcase. I picked up Frank's photo. I walked past Ashley without saying a word. Jenny took my suitcase. We walked to the front door. Mark came up from the basement. He looked confused. "Where are you going?" he said. Jenny said she's leaving. Mark said, "Why?" Jenny said, "Ask your wife." Mark looked at Ashley. Ashley shrugged. She said, "It's no big deal." She said, "Your mother is being dramatic." She said it was just a joke. I stopped at the front door. I turned around. I looked at my son, the baby I held in my arms for 11 hours of labor, the little boy who used to crawl into my bed after nightmares, the teenager who borrowed my car and crashed it into a mailbox and cried because he was so sorry, the man who stood at his father's funeral and held my hand and said, "I'll take care of you, Mom." I said, "Mark." He looked at me. I said, "Your wife filmed me folding your underwear and posted it on the internet for 50,000 people to laugh at." Mark opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Ashley. Ashley crossed her arms. She said, "It was for TikTok, Mom. You don't understand TikTok." I said, "I understand being made fun of. I understand being used. I understand being called the help in my own family." Ashley laughed. She actually laughed. She said, "You're not family. You're a guest, and guests help out." The room went silent. Even the refrigerator stopped humming. Jenny made a sound like an animal, a low growl from somewhere deep in her chest. Mark said, "Ashley." Just her name, nothing else. Ashley looked at him. "What?" she said. He didn't answer. He just stood there, his hands at his sides, his face empty. The face of a man who had spent his whole life not seeing things, not seeing his mother get tired, not seeing his wife get cruel, not seeing anything that required him to act. I walked out the front door. Jenny carried my suitcase to her car. I got in the passenger seat. I didn't look back at the house. I didn't want to see it anymore. I didn't want to remember the address. Jenny started the car. She asked me where I wanted to go. I said, "I don't know." She said, "You can stay with me." I said, "Okay." She drove. We didn't talk for 10 minutes. Then she pulled over on the side of the road. She put the car in park. She leaned her head against the steering wheel, and she cried. I put my hand on her back. I told her it was okay. She said, "It's not okay, Mom. None of this is okay." I stayed with Jenny for 3 weeks. Her apartment is small, 1 bedroom. I slept on the couch. She gave me her blankets, her pillows. She made me tea every morning. She took me to the doctor to get my hip checked. She sat with me while I called a lawyer, a real lawyer, a woman named Diane who specialized in elder financial abuse. Diane asked me a lot of questions. How much money did I give them? Did I have receipts? Did I have texts? Did I have any proof? I didn't have proof. I had my word. I had the memory of handing Ashley $400 for groceries that never made it to the refrigerator. I had the memory of paying for Liam's school field trip, Chloe's dance recital costume, Mark's car insurance when he said he was short that month. I had the memory of emptying my savings account little by little until there was almost nothing left. But I didn't have receipts. I didn't have paper trails. I had a son who wouldn't look at me and a daughter-in-law who saw me as content. Diane said we could try a civil case. She said it would be expensive. She said it would take years. She said it would tear the family apart even more than it already was. I asked her what she would do if I was her mother. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said I would walk away. She said I would take whatever peace I could find and I would never look back. So that's what I did. I walked away. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. It's a senior building, reduced rent, meals in the community room on Tuesdays and Thursdays, bingo on Friday nights. The walls are thin. I can hear my neighbor, Mrs. Carbone, watching game shows at full volume. The carpet is beige and stained. The elevator smells like cabbage and Bengay. It is not the house I raised my children in. It is not the home I shared with Frank for 43 years. It is a small gray box with a window that faces a parking lot. But it is mine. Ashley's TikTok account is still active. Jenny checks it sometimes. She tells me the numbers, the followers, the likes, the comments. I ask her to stop. She can't stop. She wants to know. She wants to track the damage. The last time she told me Ashley had 200,000 followers. 200,000 people who watch an old woman fold laundry and set the table and fall asleep with her mouth open. 200,000 people who think it's funny. Mark called me once, 2 months after I left. He said he was sorry. He said Ashley didn't mean to hurt me. He said she was just trying to build her brand. I listened to his voice. That voice I had known since he was a baby, learning to say mama. That voice that used to call me from college to tell me he missed my chicken soup. That voice that promised to take care of me when Frank was gone. I said, "Okay, Mark." I said, "I forgive you." I said, "I love you." I said, "Tell Liam and Chloe I love them too." Then I hung up the phone. I sat in my small gray apartment. I looked at the photo of Frank. I remembered the night we decided to have children. We were lying in bed. It was raining. He said, "Let's have a baby." I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "I've never been more sure of anything." I said, "Okay." We held hands under the covers. We didn't know anything. We didn't know what would happen. We didn't know that love could turn into this. I don't see Liam and Chloe anymore. Mark said it's complicated. He said Ashley thinks I'm a bad influence. He said she thinks I might say something to the kids. I don't know what I would say. I would say your grandmother loves you. I would say your grandmother made you pancakes every morning for 18 months. I would say your grandmother took you to the park and pushed you on the swings until her arms ached. I would say your grandmother cried every night in a tiny room because she missed your grandfather, and she missed her house, and she missed herself. But I won't say any of that. I'll just sit here in my apartment. I'll drink my coffee. I'll watch the parking lot. I'll wait for the phone to ring. It doesn't ring much anymore. Jenny calls every day. She comes over on Sundays. We watch old movies. We don't talk about Mark. We don't talk about Ashley. We don't talk about the videos. We just sit together on my beige couch and we pretend everything is fine. Sometimes I think about setting the table, that video, the one where my hands are shaking. The one where I'm wearing the blue cardigan with the missing button. I think about how I didn't even know I was being watched. I think about how I was just trying to help. I was just trying to be a good mother, a good mother-in-law, a good grandmother. I was just trying to do what women do, what we have always done. We set the table, we make the food, we clean the mess, we hold the family together with our own hands. And then one day we look up and we realize no one was ever holding us. Ashley posted a new video last week. Jenny told me. I asked her not to, but she told me anyway. In the video, Ashley is standing in her kitchen, the kitchen where I made pancakes every morning, the kitchen where I scrubbed the stove until my knuckles bled. She is laughing. She is holding up her phone. She is talking to the camera. She says, "Guess who finally moved out?" She says the guest room is now a home gym. She says she's so excited to have her house back. The caption said, "Freedom feels good." 112,000 likes. I closed my eyes. I saw my hands on those plates, the wedding china, the plates from 1987. I wondered what happened to them. I wondered if Ashley kept them or threw them away or sold them on Facebook Marketplace. I wondered if anyone will ever set that table again. I wondered if anyone will ever sit in Frank's chair. I wondered if anyone will remember that a woman named Margaret bought those plates for a couple who thought they would be together forever. I opened my eyes. The parking lot was still there. The beige carpet was still there. The smell of cabbage was still there. Mrs. Carbone was still watching her game shows. I got up. I walked to the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator. There was a half-gallon of milk, a stick of butter, 3 eggs, a jar of pickles. I closed the refrigerator. I walked back to the couch. I sat down. I picked up Frank's photo. I held it against my chest. I didn't cry. I don't cry anymore. There's no point. Tears don't bring people back. Tears don't make your son call you. Tears don't make your grandchildren remember your name. Tears just make your eyes puffy and your nose red. And then you have to look at yourself in the bathroom mirror and see the face of a woman who trusted too much and loved too hard and paid the price for both. I set the photo down. I looked at the clock. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. The sun was already going down. The parking lot lights were starting to flicker on. I thought about dinner. I thought about what I would eat. Maybe toast. Maybe cereal. Maybe nothing. I thought about tomorrow. I thought about the week after that. I thought about the rest of my life in this small gray box with the beige carpet and the thin walls and the window that faces a parking lot. I thought about Frank. I thought about our first apartment. It was smaller than this. 1 room, a hot plate, a mattress on the floor. We were so happy. We didn't know anything. We were poor and young and stupid, and we thought love was enough. We thought love could fix everything. We thought love meant you never ended up alone in a senior building on the wrong side of town, watching the sunset over a Kmart parking lot. Love isn't enough. Love is just the thing you tell yourself while you're setting the table for people who will film you behind your back. Love is the reason you stay. Love is the reason you give. Love is the reason you don't notice you've disappeared until you see your own hands on a stranger's phone and you hear your daughter-in-law laugh and you realize you were never a mother to her. You were just content. You were just a video. You were just a joke that went viral. The phone buzzed. I looked at it. A text from Jenny. "You okay, Mom?" I typed back. "I'm okay." I wasn't okay. I'm not okay. I will never be okay. But that's what you say when you're 68 years old and you've lost your husband and your son and your grandchildren and your house and your dignity and your sense of self. You say you're okay because the truth is too long to text. The truth is too heavy to carry. The truth is, a woman set the table for 43 years, and no one ever asked her to sit down.